All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for the textbook Web Development and Design Foundations with HTML 7th edition by Terry Felk Morris. I'm now up to Chapter 13 of 14, which is on web promotion. And as you can see here, our objectives: to identify commonly used search engines and search indexes, describe the components of a search engine, describe web pages that are friendly to search engines, submit a website for inclusion in a search engine or search directory, monitor a search engine listing, describe other website promotion activities, and use the iframe element to create an inline frame. Now, again, this chapter is on promoting the website. So we talk about, in here getting listed on search engines, site affiliations, banner ads, and much, much more. Using a search engine is a popular way to navigate the web. I think we all know that. What you get from a search engine helps you find if other people, let's suppose, for example, that I was going to open up my own sporting goods store. There's Dick's out there right now, and I was going to open up my own sporting goods store and call it Jeff's. All right, then what I'd want to do is I would want to make sure that I had a good website, and that when people typed in sporting goods store to a search engine, ideally I'd be on that first page and as high on the first page as I could possibly be. Now, the most popular search engines by far are Google.com, all right, and Yahoo. Bing is up there also. I think Google, they even say in the book, where is it? On 534, they have 83% of the market share. Now and you see it on the slide here too. That's pretty big. I've never even heard of Baidu, or however you pronounce that. I don't know what that is. As far as the components of a search engine, as it says right there, a search directory maintains a hierarchical category of topics and places website listings, into these categories. So you search either by typing in a term or you drill down in a site. All right. Each site is reviewed by an editor before being accepted into a directory. Well, let's talk about the stuff that's in here. All right, let's talk about the components of a search engine. We already mentioned that the two most popular are Google and Bing, and it's Google by a landslide, at least right now. But the components of a search engine, there are three that are listed on the bottom of page 534 and all of page 535, and you see in the slide here, the bottom three bullets. All right, the first is a robot. It's also known as a spider, or sometimes just known as a bot. What happens is it's a program that automatically traverses a website, all right, by following all the hyperlinks that are on the page. Now let's put that into perspective. Let's assume, as I mentioned before, that I want to create Jeff's. It's going to be a sporting goods. So I create my website. And of course, I want my website to be on Google and on Bing and on Yahoo, etc. I want it to be there. So I submit my website to those search engines. All right. And one of the first things that they do is they have their own robot or spider go through the site to see how true it is. In other words, is it really what it claims to be? Now, it might be that there are certain files on my website that I don't want the system to go through. Maybe I've got a listing of clients or something that's private. So I can actually flag some of the files that are on my website so that they aren't going through by this spider or robot. The next component they talk about there is a database. And what's a database? Basically, it's a collection of data or information organized into some kind of a meaningful way and it's administered by what's called a DBMS, or a database management system. Popular database management systems, Access is about the simplest, MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, and there are other ones. Finally, you've got a search form. The search form is a component of a search engine that you're probably the most familiar with, because it's when you bring up Google or whatever, it's what comes up, and it's what allows you to go and make a search. Your search results are also known as a result set, and it's a list of information, typically URLs, where you can click to find out information. So let's say, as an example, I wanted to do a search on search engines. So I'd come in here and I would key in here google.com, and I would just type in search engine. All right, and notice when I do that, it comes up with 46,400,000 hits. Now, some of them, of course, are going to be really good and big, and some of them are not. But did you notice that when I started typing and I put an S in there, it remembers because I just did search engines. But let's go back and let's see if we bring a new one in here. If I type in, go into Google. First of all, just so you know this, when I go into Google like this and I start typing, this is called Google Suggest right here. So when I type in the S, remember, see now it's got search engines. So let's go look up something else. Let's look up cascading style sheets. So C. It doesn't know what's going to come next. A, S, C. Notice Cascade Mountain. If I go and we get up to cascading space, look what comes up first. Style sheets. And I come up and what does it give me? 773,000 hits. All right. What you want to do, as I already mentioned to you, is you would, in an ideal world at least, what you would like to do is when somebody goes and types into a search engine, sporting goods stores. If what I want is I want Jeff's to appear not only on the first page, but I want it to be the first listing. That's what I'm interested in. Okay? So, how do I do that? Well, now they talk next here about designing pages for promotion. Okay? So what we'll get into, and we've talked a little bit about this, you've seen the one meta tag before. And that one meta tag we've used has been to basically set up and let the system know for your character set that you're using UTF-8 encoding. But there's other meta tags that you can put in also. There are descriptive words, etc., that you can put in so that people who are searching for your site, you know, if it was sporting goods, somebody might type in basketballs, for example, or golfing. So you typically create a list of these keywords. As it says, sometimes you even put in common misspellings. Then you also, so you put that in there as a meta keyword. And there's meta descriptions also. As it says, what's special about your site that would make someone want to visit it? 25 to 30 words. That's how you set up the meta tags. Here's an example. All right, so again, what I want to do though is I not only want to get, so the search engines know that I'm there, but I want to be number one on their hit list. In other words, I want to be the first thing there. To do that, I want to go through what's referred to as search engine optimization. And that's the process of basically of getting yourself as high on this list as you can. We already talked about the keywords, but you should have a descriptive title. And that's what you put between those title tags. that go up in the head section that we've talked about before. It should include the company name and or the website name and help the site market itself. You want to put in heading tags, H1, H2 tags, etc., the ones that you're going to have on each page. Descriptions. What is special about your website? Why would someone want to visit it? The meta tag, again, is a self-contained tag placed in the head section of the page. We've already looked at a couple of them. Linking. Verify that all the hyperlinks on your site work. You don't want to have what's called a broken link. All right. We talked earlier about images and multimedia. Valid code. Search engines do not require that your HTML and your CSS pass the validation code, but you should do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. Content of value, probably the most basic component of SEO, search engine optimization, is providing content of value contained within a website that follows the best practices that we talked about back in Chapter 5. All right, listing in a search engine. Once you're confident that your website is ready, you follow the following 4 steps to submit your site for consideration by a search engine. You visit the search engine website. So it's right there. You sign in to your Google account. You follow the directions listed on the page. There'll be some kind of a form for you to fill out. The spider will then search from the search engine, will index your site. This can take anywhere from days to weeks. And sometime later, again, quite often it's weeks later, you check the search engine or the search directory to see if your site is listed. And if not, you keep checking until it is. Again, don't do this until the site is finished. Don't ever submit an under construction website. That's an unbelievably amateurish thing to do. Preferential placement. They talk about a couple things here like cost per click. It's the price you are charged if you have signed up for a paid sponsor or ad and a visitor clicks on a link to your website. CPM, cost per impressions. It's the cost for every 1,000 times your ad is displayed on a web page. CTR, which is the click-through rate, is the ratio. It's the number of times an ad is clicked on to the number of times an ad is viewed. So this is just different ways that you can try to earn money from your site. Mapping the site. You should always set up a sitemap. All right, back in figure 525, which was back in what page? Oh, back in the 200s someplace, I would guess. Figure 525, which is on page 216. All right. They talked about download times and a few other things, but the idea is you want to build a sitemap so that people can easily iterate their way through your site. All right. Usually, many sites have that as a link down on the bottom of the page. You can create an XML sitemap that's used by search engines, but it's not accessed by your website visitors. And they show an example of that in the book on the bottom of page 539. All right. Monitoring search listings. Well, the next thing they talk about here is web analytics. And web analytics is basically the way that you measure, collect, analyze, and report usage of your website. How many people are looking at it? What pages are they going to the most? How often are they spending on such pages, etc.? Some of this you can get for free. Google provides a certain amount of free stuff in Google Analytics. There's other places, some that are free and some that will charge you. All right. But the point is, there are places that you can go to. Link popularity. It's a rating that's determined by a search engine based on the number of sites that link to a particular site and the quality of those sites. As it says, for checking link popularity, you want to start looking through your analytics. Social media optimization. Well, the way that the things work today, as many people find businesses through Facebook or something, some similar mechanism, Twitter or whatever, as they do any place else. This SMO, as it's described, it's optimizing a website so that it's more easily linked to, more highly visible in social media. And again, there are things like, as mentioned, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Pinterest, there's all sorts of places that you can go to. A key principle of this is making and tagging and making bookmarking easy. Social bookmarking sites like Dig and Reddit provide a way for people to store, share, and categorize their websites. All right? And you want to do this, as it says, for increased awareness and increased inbound links, which will help your search engine optimization. We've talked about some of these already. And, I use my own. I use YouTube, and that's where I put all my stuff. There's other site promotion activities that you can use. For instance, there's QR codes. That's a mistake. That's not QR codes. That should be QR codes right there. I'm going to enable editing. That's a little bit better. So there's these QR codes. You may have seen these already. They're a two-dimensional barcode in a square pattern that's readable by a different, by a scan application. Okay, I don't know if they actually show one in here. Probably not. There it is. And a lot of places do that, where if you fill out or click on a code or whatever, you can get freebies from different places. There are other things in here as well, such as there's affiliate programs where one website promotes another website. There's banner ads, which is typically a graphic image used to announce and advertise. There's banner exchange, where you agree to show banners from some other site and they agree to show yours. Very similar to the act of reciprocal link agreements, where, for instance, maybe a rental car agency would have a link in there to a hotel and vice versa. There's newsletters you can use. And, there's the old-fashioned bump and grind type of things too. Newspapers, television ads, etc. Sticky site features. Bottom of page 545. Stickiness is the ability to keep visitors at your site, because once you're there, you don't want them to leave. You can have personal recommendations for sites. You can have news groups, and then again, the traditional that we already mentioned. Okay? The last thing that's discussed in the chapter, starting on page 546 and going to about page 549, is the concept of an inline frame. An inline frame is also known, as it says there, as a floating frame. It can be placed in the body of a web page similar to the way that you place an image. All right. But the iframe element configures an inline frame. It displays the contents of another web page within your web page. It's referred to as nested browsing, so you can have like a page within a page. All right. There's other ways that you can do this. The way I'm most familiar with doing it is, for example, embedding a YouTube video in an iframe. All right. They show an example of that here. So as it says, this chapter was kind of another hodgepodgey type of chapter in that it introduced a lot of things. It was on promotion, but we talked about search engine optimization. We talked about how to submit websites to search engines. We talked about social media optimization, various different web promotion activities, and that's pretty much it. So that concludes Chapter 13. All right, so what is discussed next is Chapter 14, which is the last chapter in the book. And Chapter 14 which starts in the book on page 557. A brief look at JavaScript and jQuery. So I will be back with that presentation shortly.